guys, this is a video over quadrilaterals. I feel like I'm at the back table in my classroom. I miss you guys. I wish we could be there working on this stuff right now, but unfortunately we are not. I feel like I'm at the back table though. I have my expos ready. I have an eraser, got my hydro flask, got my hand sanitizer. Let's do this. So I wanted to talk about the hierarchy of quadrilaterals. You had this in some of your notes last week. I like to think about this kind of like what you had in science with the kingdoms, like the classifications. If we start at quadrilaterals, we can break it down into these particular shapes. Now, if you notice, I drew the arrows going up. I kind of like this. Why do I like this for? Well, if you look at a square, I can see that, I forgot two arrows. I can see that all squares can be rhombis, can be rectangles, can be parallelograms, and can also be quadrilaterals. Now, why is that the case? Well, if you look at a square, if you look at the angles and sides, just like we did with triangles, we notice that the angles, it has 4 right angles, and also it has opposite adjacent angles. You really don't have to know that, but just a little information there. It also has 4 congruent sides. So if a square can satisfy any of these definitions, then a square can be a rhombus, parallelogram, or a rectangle. So for instance, as a rectangle has 4 right angles, and a square also has 4 right angles, a square can be a rectangle, but not all rectangles can be squares. Why? Because a square has 4 congruent sides, and a rectangle does not. Same thing with a rhombus. If you notice a rhombus, it has 4 congruent sides. Well, a square has 4 congruent sides, therefore it satisfies that definition to be a rhombus. But if you look, a rhombus cannot be a square because it doesn't have 4 right angles. Yes. And also a square can be a parallelogram. Why? Because it has it has 2 sets of parallel sides and also has opposite adjacent sides. So a square can also be a parallelogram because it satisfies that definition. And if you look at a trapezoid, it just has 1 set of, I meant to draw the arrows like this. It just has 1 set of parallel sides. So a trapezoid is kind of the oddball of this. So if you can remember this chart, square, rhombus, rectangle, parallelogram, quadrilateral, you will have no trouble. So if I ask you a question like, can all rectangles be a square? Well, if you had this chart, the arrow doesn't go down. The arrow only goes up. And notice that a rhombus and a rectangle can never be each other. So let's practice right quick. Let's see, my shape is a rectangle. So if I wanted to classify this shape, it's obviously a rectangle. So if I find rectangle on my chart, let's see, rectangle goes up to a parallelogram, and it also goes up to a quadrilateral. So this shape has 3 names: a rectangle, a parallelogram, and a quadrilateral. Let's do another one. Oh, the square. I call the square the boss. Why? Because it can be all of these shapes. So if I find square on my hierarchy, a square can be a rectangle, a square can be a rhombus, a square can be a parallelogram, and a square can also be a quadrilateral. So guys, I hope this chart helps with you. Feel free to watch this video as much as you need to. Continue practicing on MobiMax and IXL, and hopefully in a few weeks we'll be back in the classroom. All right guys, see you later.